All right, for today's video, we're going to be doing something that I've wanted to do for quite a while now, and we're actually going to be doing a collection tour to show off all the stuff in my collection, Transformers and otherwise. I'm going to split this into two different videos just because I've got a lot and I want to be able to actually talk about some things. So for today's section of it, it's going to be specifically just the Transformer stuff, and then for the next video that'll come out in a couple days, it's going to be pretty much everything else. Because there's going to be more stuff with the Transformers that I'm going to want to kind of zero in on and talk about. So I think that could be kind of its whole separate section. But yeah, before we get into the Transformers proper, I want to clarify how my Transformers setup is kind of divided up. I've got sort of two different categories in my head. Everyone collects stuff kind of differently, and this is just kind of how I tend to think about it. I have my Canon display, and my non-Canon display. The Canon stuff is really this is sort of my definitive versions of every character. I like them all to be in scale with each other and, kind of coexistent. So there's only with a couple exceptions, there's not different versions of the same character. I don't have a bunch of different Optimus Primes all in the same Canon display. This is oh, this is the one character, and that's who he is throughout the display. So it's kind of following my own head canon. So some stuff will scale not exactly accurately to how it would have from its respective media, but how I tend to prefer the scale between the two of them. The Beast Wars guys and the actual G1 media are supposed to be tiny compared to the regular guys, but I sort of prefer them being turning into big animals and being able to stack up with regular size Transformers. That's just one example. I'll kind of talk about it as we go along. So there'll be a few sections where I will have multiples of the same character, but either that's going to be a alternate universe kind of thing, like Shattered Glass, or I consider them different enough characters, even though they share the same name, right? Beast Wars Silverbolt. Beast Wars Silverbolt is a different character than G1 bad example because I can't say Silverbolt apparently, but G1 Silverbolt and Beast Wars Silverbolt are two different characters, and it's fine for multiple characters to have the same name. I think that's the case on Earth as well, but I won't have a Armada Optimus Prime and a G1 Optimus Prime as two different characters because they're the same character, just two different designs. But anyway, I'll kind of talk about that as we go along. But yeah, that's enough rambling. Let's get on into it. All right, starting off in this section, on this part of the shelf, we've got our Season 1 Decepticons here with the, with Devastator there. Only exception to that is, obviously Ratbat, and I don't think Frenzy was really in Season 1, but they're the cassettes, they go with Soundwave, so they're all, pretty much all together. And yeah, not a lot to note here. It's mostly just regular iterations of these characters. Looking forward to getting Bombshell and Shrapnel to go with Kickback there, but otherwise, pretty standard. I think they all look pretty good together. And then going down here a little bit, here we have my Quintesson display. Obviously, lots of Sharkticons and Alicons. As I've kind of talked about previously, I like that, I can get different iterations of Sharkticons and still allow them all to be in my sort of canon display together. Because, as long as they all generally turn to the same shape, I think they can coexist with each other. Got Alpha Q in the back there, just a few different kinds of Quintessons that I think all work well together anyway. And then going down further, we've got our Season 3, but specifically the Transformers the movie Autobots here. So we've got the main movie cast over here, and the Junkions. Now, apparently, in Legacy Evolution, we're going to be getting a lot of new Junkions, so they're probably going to have to branch off and be their own shelf eventually. But for now, I'll just have them with the movie guys here. Yeah, no, anything notable here? I've got Thrilling 30 RC rather than the Studio Series or the Earthrise version. I just still prefer this one. Got Titans Return Wheelie. I haven't actually seen the Studio Series wheelie, but I don't know that I like that figure better than this one anyway, because the vehicle mode is not great. But either way, pretty typical stuff. I've got Fire Drive there, kind of chilling with Rodimus's trailer, even though he wasn't in the movie, but still generally all themed together. And then down below that, I'm gonna bring in a little light here just so you can see. Okay, I've got basically this section is meant to be like Decepticons that are like primarily featured in other media. It's a little dusty on the shelf there. Some of this stuff I dusted off, but some of it I still have to. But yeah, so like some Transformers Prime stuff, some Unicron trilogy stuff. Obviously, we've got Lugnut back there from Animated. We've got Barricade here, who's from the movies. So, a lot, just kind of a mishmash. I think as we get kind of more of each of these individual groups, that they're probably going to have to become their own shelves. But for now, basically just like, Decepticons that aren't originally from G1, I guess, is the is how it's supposed to be set up here. So some good stuff. We got some of the Cybertron guys back there from Velocitron. Most of the Unicron trilogy stuff is Cybertron, aside from Insecticon is from Energon. Some of the non-show Prime characters like Dead End. I love Dead End, and here's an example, right? Like he can be a different character than Dead End from the Stunticons, because they don't really look anything alike, and he's got his own vibe going on. I love this figure. Definitely still, I think, one of my standout favorite figures in my collection. It's just such a cool mold, and such a cool like color scheme and retool of it, because it was originally the Prime Wheeljack mold. Yeah, there we go. We've got Rumble. I don't know. I probably consider him to not be named Rumble. I don't really have a good alternate name in mind, but I kind of just consider him a different character, since he's really nothing like G1 Rumble. Yeah, pretty good stuff there. I love the Transformers Prime stuff especially. And then over here we've got my Wreckers display. Some notable stuff here. I decided to put the Human Alliance scouts from Dark of the Moon in with the Wreckers. I like them as Wreckers because they all transform into kind of like big ridiculous weapons. So I feel like they fit well with the Wreckers display. I've got Prime Bulkhead back there. I prefer the first edition version to the Legacy version, so I stuck with that. Yeah, got my sort of customized Leadfoot in there, and otherwise, pretty typical stuff. Also, I've got I have Sea Spray from Hunt for the Decepticons, I want to say. Now, I consider this a different character than G1 Sea Spray, but I feel like still calling him Sea Spray would be a little bit too close for comfort. So I tend to call him Deep Dive, which was the remold, or the repaint of that mold that was in kind of like the camo colors. So it's not really accurate to the color scheme of that character, but I didn't want to track down the figure for a second time, so I just call him Deep Dive, and I put a bunch of stickers on him to cover up all the spots where it literally said Sea Spray on his body. So suits my needs there. But that's the Wreckers, and then up here we've got our Micromasters with the bases all set up there. Pretty typical, mostly all from the War for Cybertron guys. There's a few G1 ones in there, just because like I feel like G1 Micromasters fit in pretty well with the new guys, because the new guys aren't like that big updates. Like they have slightly more articulation, but not a ton. Only a couple of them in there. I've got Fix It to go with his crew there, and I've got Tailspin, I want to say is the blue one from the Autobot cars. And what's his name? Sunrunner, Big Shot, Flak, and Sidetrack. That's his name, I think, is in there. But yeah, otherwise all the ones from War for Cybertron looking pretty cool there. And then up here we've got our Season 1 Autobots. Not all of the Season 1 Autobots. I stuck to specifically like the ARC crew for this. So like doesn't have the the Dinobots are somewhere else, Jetfire somewhere else. Just the ones who were originally on the ARC in the first episode. And yeah, no, they're mostly the War for Cybertron versions. I have Classics Mirage in there just because I don't really care for the Kingdom Mirage mold or the Siege one.
So yeah, just missing Gears and Brawn and Windcharger, who I do have. I have versions of Brawn and Windcharger, but I feel like they don't really work with this display anymore because for like scale reasons, because they're smaller than Bumblebee and Cliffjumper, and I sort of feel like Bumblebee and Cliffjumper should be the smallest. So I'm sure they'll make new versions of those guys eventually. So just waiting for that. But yeah, that's the season 1 Autobots there with the trailer in the back over there. And here we have our season 3 Decepticons, minus the movie guys, obviously. So Predaking, Trypticon, both of Trypticon's little minions there, Brunt and Fast Track. Right? Is he Fast Track? I always get Fast Track and Full Tilt confused. He's Full Tilt, I think. And then and then the Terracons, obviously. I think they all look pretty good together. Only missing Runabout and Runamuck and Octane, I think, would be the other ones that would fit in this display. I can't think of anyone else necessarily, though there might be someone. Yeah, I didn't really like the Earthrise versions of Runabout and Runamuck, and I didn't really like Octane being a headmaster, so I didn't get him in Titan's Returns. Titan's Return, but otherwise, you know, I'm quite pleased with the display so far. I think I might have to move them to a different shelf at some point because they look a little bit crowded on here, but for now, it works. And then up here, we've got our Season 2 Autobots, plus Jetfire, just because I think he looks good with them. But yeah, no, I'm quite pleased with this display in particular, just because, like, really, I like all of these figures. I elected to stick with the Universe and Generations versions of Inferno and Grapple. I made a little 3D printed head thing there for Inferno, so he looks more like his G1 design. I could do that with Grapple eventually, but it would be a little bit more of a pain because I'd also have to figure out how to, you know, put the hook section on the back there too, and how that would change transformation. But you know, it's fine for now. I just prefer these versions just because they scale so much better in vehicle mode. The Earthrise and Kingdom versions just look like a little bit too small in terms of, you know, how they scale in vehicle mode. I can talk about this now. Like, there's some characters that you know, obviously don't scale at all in vehicle mode, like Powerglide. And in my sort of like headcanon display, they actually turn into like small versions of those vehicles, like Sea Spray and Powerglide, just because they're the characters that like really would have to be drastically different to scale in alt mode, and then they would just be gigantic in robot mode, and that wouldn't scale at all. Like the Seekers, right, from season 1, well, all of the Seekers really would also fall into this category, where like if they actually properly scaled with the Autobot cars, they would have to be like all Jetfire size, and I don't think that would really work. I think you can get away with it with planes, because it's like, oh yeah, maybe they do actually just turn into smaller versions of the planes, and that can still be a disguise, because like when you're looking in the sky, it's kind of hard to tell like how far away a jet actually is. So, you know, they could just be a little bit closer than jets typically fly and still disguise pretty well. But if you actually looked at them next to another full-size jet, they would be a lot smaller. I don't know. That's just kind of my my headcanon justification for it. But yeah, with ones like Inferno and Grapple, I really prefer them being in scale, because it's like if the scale is just a little bit off, it really bugs me. But if there's ones that are just like unavoidably off, like most of the season 2 mini bots, then I'm like, okay, they can just turn into small versions of those vehicles, and that's okay, I think. But yeah, I think that this display in particular, I really like. You know, I like these guys. I like, obviously, I think we're gonna get new versions of Beachcomber, Powerglide, and Sea Spray relatively soon, because they've been doing a lot of the mini bots. But you know, I still really like the Legends version, so it works for me for now. But yeah, then going down, we've got our season 2 Decepticons here. I don't know that there weren't like really that many Decepticons added in season 2 that weren't like combiner teams, so I think that might be all of them, but I'm not sure. We got the triple changers and the cone heads back there. And then over here we've got my fossilizers display with the 3 main guys kind of in their combined mode in the back there. I think that looks pretty good. Moving on down here, we've got our Shattered Glass Decepticons. Obviously, it's going to be pretty exciting to add Soundwave to that. I've got a pile of Energon cubes here. I've just kind of been moving that around my collection, just like putting it places that felt a little bit empty. And right now that's this because, you know, the two Voyagers is kind of not a ton to fill up this whole little cubicle here. So, you know, that those will move around eventually, but for now that's what they look like. And then we've got our Shattered Glass Autobots over here to sit next to them. Pretty cool. And then down here we've got basically some like bounty hunter type characters. Obviously Double Dealer and Lockdown. I've also got Prime Thundertron in the back there, who I guess is, you know, he's really more of a pirate than a bounty hunter, but I think he could make a cool sort of like piratey kind of bounty hunter. And then we've got Knock there to go with Double Dealer, scars in the chest, and then the original Studio Series Thundercracker, who I consider to be a different character than G1 Thundercracker, just because he looks, you know, so different. Obviously, you'd have to have a different name because he's still a blue jet, so I feel like calling him Thundercracker and the other guy's Thundercracker would be still a little bit too close for comfort. Again, I don't really know that I have a good like new headcanon name for him, but I just think, I don't know, something about him, I look at him, I'm like, man, that would make a really cool kind of bounty hunter character. So I've got him with these guys. Then over here, kind of in a slightly similar vein, like mercenary type characters and sort of like, you know, non-specifically Decepticon aligned evil guys, like, you know, Sound Blaster in some, you know, media is like a mercenary or whatever, like in the War for Cybertron trilogy. We've got Nemesis Prime, obviously. We've got our two GoBots guys. I hope they do. You know, I'm surprised they haven't done a green repaint of Kingdom Warpath yet to be one of the GoBots characters. And now that we have Cosmos, maybe they'll do a new version of the blue Pathfinder as well. I'd really like that collection to kind of, you know, expand a little bit further because you know, it's just cool to have Bug Bite and Road Ranger there. I've got I mean, technically Squawkbox is supposed to just be straight up a Decepticon, but I like specifically having Squawkbox with Sound Blaster because, you know, it's two cassettes that can actually both fit in his chest, so I have him with them. And then, you know, Exhaust there I think is actually the only one who actually still has the mercenary logo, but that works well enough for me. And then moving on down here, we've got the Victorian Crew. Not, you know, eventually I think I'll want to display these guys in their combined mode, but for now, this is kind of the spot in the collection that they fit was in one of these cubicles, which is too short for a Combiner Wars Combiner, but yeah, I like them. Then over here, we've got the some RID 2001 Decepticons there. Got some dust in there. With you know, the Velocitron Scourge, with you know, obviously Gigatron. Originally, you know, in RID he's Megatron, but the Japanese name for him is Gigatron, so I just consider him Gigatron as a different character than Megatron. And we got Skybite there. I like that display. And then moving on over here, we've got some Beast Wars Neo Maximals. In the comics, there was a crew of Maximals that was mostly this crew except with Lio Convoy instead of Big Convoy, and they were called the Pack. So I kind of consider this group to be the Pack, but I'd prefer to have Big Convoy with them just because the rest of them are Neo characters. So I'm not sure why they put Lio Convoy in charge of that, but either way, I like this little crew together. Then moving up here, we've got basically season 4 Autobots. Obviously with Fortress Maximus there. There's a few exceptions in here, like you know, I've got Cog with Fort Max, and because I don't actually have, you know, the Generations Metroplex, the first one, I don't have a version of G1 Metroplex, so I've got Slimer and Six Gun kind of in with Cog there. Yeah, I know Rewind was technically in the movie and in season 3, but I always like to put Rewind and Chrome Dome together because of their relationship in the IDW comics. But yeah, other typical stuff there. This is where I'm going to put Point Blank when I get him. We've got the Clones, Punch, and the Headmasters. You know, pretty typical stuff there. Gonna have to put a few cuts in here so I can take breaks to catch my breath and drink some water. But yeah, no, I think they all look good together. Obviously, you know, in an ideal world, this wouldn't be how Fort Max would scale with them, like being the same size as like Omega Supreme. But like to properly scale with the rest of the Transformers, he would literally have to be like as tall as I am. So I guess I just consider that he turns into like a small base, and that the Titan classes aren't like, or the Titan characters aren't like that big as compared to like how they're shown off in media. Same thing with Trypticon. Really, like in an ideal world, he'd be like really, really tall, but that's not really a feasible thing for plastic representation. So I tend to think about it to kind of compensate for that. I tend to think that they just turn into, smaller things than we typically see them in media. But yeah, that's them. Up here, looking quite magnificent, we've got Skylinks all by himself. And then down below here, we've got the season 3 mini bots, obviously minus Wheelie because he's with the movie crew there. But I like that display; they all look good together. We'll probably get new versions of Outback and Swerve and Tailgate when we get new versions of Gears, Brawn, and Windcharger. But I think that they work well for now. Like I kind of think that these guys in particular kind of work as being slightly smaller characters, especially Outback and Brawn have like very kind of different sort of identities, I feel like. But yeah, no, they all good together. Then down here we've got sort of our I consider this like not quite Shattered Glass, but some sort of like alternate universe evil versions of Maximals with Nemesis Primal there, and the Mutant Tigatron and Shadow Panther, and then the Worlds Collide Black Arachnia. I've talked about this in some of their own reviews. I just think that they look like a cool little crew together of kind of like evil versions of Maximals. I know Black Arachnia is a Predacon, but she does become a Maximal at some point. But yeah, they look good together. And then down here, we've got some Pretenders. A few of these are going to get replaced soon. Like, in the next wave of Legacy, we're getting a new Skullgrin, who I think looks absolutely fantastic. But for now, we've got the old Generations. I don't really remember what what exact toy line that Skullgrin is in. I think it was just Generations. And then the leaked listings have said that we're going to be getting a new Bludgeon next year. So that will be cool because I like that figure a lot, but it's not without its issues. And then we've seen the new core class Bomb Burst, who is also going to go there. But yeah, for now that's what that display looks like. Then moving on down here, we've got some kind of movie Decepticons, pretty much. I mean, not really movie, more like movie toy line Decepticons. I think most of them were Hunt for the Decepticons. I was never able to get Shadow. No, what is his name? Skystalker, which was a mold that I really wanted. So I ended up, eventually settling and getting GDO Sunspot because he was a lot easier to find cheaper, and I really wanted that mold. So that's the version I've got. But yeah, I really like all of these figures. And then down here we've got some kind of like human built Transformers as sort of the theme of this section here. So we've got the Centurion Drone, who I think was made by G.I. Joe in the comics. We've got Nightbird, obviously, and then we've got Viper, who similarly was made by Cobra in my sort of head canon because he's got the Cobra crest there. So they look good together. And then moving on over here, we've got our show Maximals and Predacons from Beast Wars, and I'm quite pleased with this display. I really like a lot of these versions here. Just missing, we're missing Inferno from Legacy, who's going to be going somewhere in that corner. I have the original Tigerhawk, but I don't think he really fits in well with them. He looks a little bit too dated. I'm quite satisfied with the original versions of Rampage and Depth Charge. I think they fit in just fine. I could use a new Silverbolt and maybe a new Quick Strike, but I think they work relatively well, especially Quick Strike, since he's like just so accurate to the to the show version. Mine has a little bit of a custom paint on the head there to make it look more accurate, but I'd be fine if we never got a new Quick Strike, but I would like a new Silverbolt because I think he could stand to be a little bit bigger to scale the rest of them. And are there any other? Oh, Dinobot 2. Yeah, I could use a new version of Dinobot 2. That would be nice. And I think that's everybody. We've even got Transmutate and Ravage in the back there. But yeah, no, quite pleased with this display so far. Then moving up here, we've got our sort of season 4 and kind of later G1 Decepticons here. So obviously we've got Black Zarek there. We've got Overlord and Six Shot, and I I have Overlord next to the Duocons, Battle Trap and Flywheels, just because if you think about it, Overlord is kind of a Duocon. I mean, he was like a Power Master character, but he also has the same Duocon gimmick. Then we've got the Decepticon Target Masters right there. We've got the clones. Because, just sort of incidentally, because Flywheels and Misfire ended up being near each other, I've also put Spinister and Croc here as well to, you know, kind of act as double duty in the collection. So they're all kind of in their respective groups, but then also having all of the scavengers, I think is what, yeah, the scavengers from IDW next to each other. And this is also where I'm going to put Crankcase when I get him. I'm pretty excited for that figure. Then we've got the Headmasters and the Horrorcons over here, and then he's Fast Track. The other one is Full Tilt. I think that's right. Fast Track here to go with Scorponok. I like having Scorponok and Black Zarek as kind of like this, you know, centerpiece of the kind of, you know, collection here. I think they look really good together. And then up here we've got a lot of Beast Wars guys. You know, nothing super notable here. Mostly it's just like, you know, largely Maximals on the left and Predacons on the right. We've got a few Beast Machines guys too. But, you know, it's not entirely an even split because I think there's way more Predacons. But yeah, you know, some of the basic class guys down here. Then a few Maximals over there. Then we've got kind of the Transmetal Maximals here. And this isn't everything. Like, there's a few guys that I don't have out for display. There's actually, I mean, I should have said this earlier, like a lot of my collection, there's quite a bit of it that's actually not out on display, but just showing off the things that are actually, you know, out on shelves and stuff. Then we've got Buzzsaw there. I didn't even mean to put Buzzsaw next to Buzzsaw, but yeah, they're maybe a little bit close for comfort in terms of like both being called Buzzsaw and turning into the same thing and having the same color scheme, but that's okay. I can let that slide. Yeah, technically Buzzsaw and Quick Strike over there are supposed to be Maximals in the Beast Machines toy line, but I just consider them Predacons, so I put them in with my Predacons. But yeah, you know, Buzzsaw and Buzzsaw. We've got Sandstorm over there from Legacy. Then up here, we've got both versions of Spitter. I tend to think of the Transmetal version as being called Slapper, just because that's what he was called in RID. But I'd still prefer to have him here with the Beast Wars guys rather than the RID section, just because, you know, the actual RID Slapper is red, not blue. So I don't know. It's just I really like both of these figures, and I really wanted them to be able to coexist with each other because I think they make for a kind of neat duo. But yeah, I don't know. And then, you know, we've got Skywasp or Parasite, whichever you prefer, up there. We've got Razor Claw. Yeah, Razor Claw is his name. Technically, I think this is Beast Wars Neo Rockbuster. Like, he's got a little Maximal logo on him. But you know, there was this color scheme released as Razor Claw at some point, so I tend to prefer him as Razor Claw and just ignore the fact that he has a Maximal logo on him. But yeah, then we've got some of our Beast Machines Maximals here. There's a few more of these guys, like the deluxe ones, but they didn't fit on this shelf because it's a little bit too short for the deluxe guys, so they're in storage for right now, but you know, still pretty good. And then up here we've got some more guys. We've got Kingdom Skywarp there, or Silverbolt, whichever you prefer. You know, a few guys. The reissue of Cybertruck, Tripredacus, looking very cool. And then, you know, a few of these guys. I had Transmetal Scavenger as my version of Inferno for a long time. But, you know, I don't think he really fits in as Inferno now, just because none of the other guys in that display are Transmetals, so he would kind of stand out. And, you know, we're getting a new Inferno, and he looks really good, and now I can just have Scavenger actually be Scavenger, his own character, and that works well enough for me. Moving on from here, down on the top of this shelf, we have some kind of Unicron trilogy Autobots here. Mostly, well, no, entirely, Energon and Cybertron. I tend to, you know, I feel like when we start getting more Armada stuff to fit in with these guys, I might put them somewhere else just because I tend to link an Energon and Armada a little bit more in my mind, even though technically Energon and Armada are like a much closer duo in terms of continuity. But, you know, I guess it's just because they're both CGI. I don't know. The toy lines are more similar to each other than Armada, I think, is really the big thing. But yeah, we've got the big, new Legacy Metroplex. We've got our Velocitron Override here. We've got Backstop, who we just looked at last week. And then, a few more guys. The only two Energon guys there are Landmine and Towline, who are just really, really cool little toys there. But yeah, that's what they look like together. Every time I walk by here, I just kind of like spin the axe, which is really satisfying. But yeah, below them, we've got our Dinobots. And yeah, they look pretty good for now. I've got the Black Mamba overscaled Power of the Primes versions of Snarl and Swoop in there. I mean, I have the whole set, but obviously, I much prefer the Studio Series versions when they've been coming out. And I feel like if you had any two Dinobots that were going to be smaller than the other ones, it probably would be Snarl and Swoop, especially Swoop. So it works for now. Obviously, they're going to get replaced when Studio Series versions of those guys come out. I think Snarl is the next one, thankfully, which works super well because then, I think if any one of the Dinobots had to be smaller, Swoop would be the one. So I think that will work for the time being until we get a new version of Swoop as well. And then I also have Power of the Prime Slash in here. I still think that she fits in well with them, and then the Power Core Combiner team with Grimstone, and then all of the little drones there. I think that works pretty well. And then down here, we've got what I kind of consider to be like alternate universe versions of some characters. So we have some alt universe stuff coming in here, like with Shattered Glass, obviously. So this is just like different alt universe guys. And I tend to try to be a little bit reserved with that idea because I don't want it to be like so expansive into alt universe stuff that it just like allows for everything, like Armada versions and Energon versions and Cybertron versions and blah blah blah. All of that is like, I don't know. I want them to be pretty similar to their kind of G1 counterparts. But I don't know, just allowing me to get some of these guys in here because, with Megatron and Galvatron, there is kind of like a comic book history of Galvatron being like alternate universe time traveling versions of Megatron. So with that, I think it makes sense to have a couple different Megatrons, a couple different Galvatrons, because they're all just messing with time. So we've got the Toy Colors Galvatron sitting on the Studio Series Starscream throne. We've got the spoiler pack version of Megatron with the Matrix on his chest. We've got the Unicron companion pack Galvatron with the powered up colors. We've got Laser Prime here, who I think works well as an alt universe version of Optimus Prime, especially since they're mostly the same mold. We've got Goldbug here. Goldbug I consider to be an alt universe version just because in my sort of headcanon Prime universe, or I guess shouldn't say Prime because that's a different universe, but headcanon primary universe, I prefer Bumblebee not turn into Goldbug, but I still do like the look of Goldbug as a character, and I don't want him to just be a separate character, so I can kind of consider him like an alt universe version of Bumblebee. Or like an alt universe version of Bumblebee that became Goldbug, which I think makes sense, especially considering our Shattered Glass version of Bumblebee is also Goldbug. So, I have him as an alt universe version of Bumblebee there. And then Silver Streak, who I consider to be an alt universe version of Blue Streak. So yeah, that's what that is. It's a little bit convoluted of rationalization in my head of getting these guys on here, but it works fine enough for me. Then over here, we've got kind of just some Autobots that I didn't have a great place for. We've got Alita 1 and her crew over there. We've got Puffer kind of hanging out in the back, Road Rage. We've got the two of the Monster Bots. I never got Grotesque, unfortunately. And we've got Jackpot and Sights. So I don't know. I think that if I'm ever having to move something off of the tall shelf there, which the cubicles are a little bit smaller in, then I might put Alita 1 and her crew in there and then put other stuff in here. It's a little bit of a mishmash of stuff just for things that just don't have a great place, but I didn't want to just put them on their own. And then kind of similar thing here with Decepticons. We've got the Rainmakers, Fangry, who I guess could go up here since there's some other stuff that was released in 1988. I think that toy line was with Spinister and Fangry, I want to say. So, Fangry could fit up here, but there's already a lot of stuff up here anyway, so I just put them down here. We got Ransack, who, obviously eventually will probably be getting other versions of the other deluxe Insecticons, so they might have to become their own shelf. And then G-Axis, who I don't really have a great place for, but, fine here. And then kind of more of that with more Autobots. We've got Sandstorm in the back there, who, like, notionally should be able to go with Season 3 Autobots, but, like, the one crew of Season 3 Autobots is the movie guys, and he wasn't in the movie. And then the other crew of Season 3 Autobots that I have is the mini-bots, and he's not a mini-bot. So it kind of just winds up not really having a great place to go unless I just, like, put him with Skylinks, which would be a little bit weird. So, I just have him by himself, but with this crew for now. And then Tomahawk, most of my other kind of, like, movie adjacent Autobots I have, like, as Wreckers characters. I guess he could be a Wrecker. I just think there's already so many helicopters in the Wreckers that I just put him in there. We've got Nightbeat, we've got Scoop, we've got Strongarm from RID 2015. And then something that I didn't realize until I just put them on the shelf together by accident is we've got Windblade and we've got Road Rocket from the Velocitron line, who I didn't realize until I was just going to put them both on the shelf anyway, just because they both don't have a great place to go otherwise. But when I put them next to each other, I realized just, like, how many weird similarities those two characters have. Like, with the new version of Road Rocket, they're both female Autobots. They're both red and black with some highlights of metallic blue. They both have, like, the circles behind their head with Windblade's kind of turbines, and with Road Rocket's wheels there. They both vaguely have, like, a Japanese theme with, like, the kabuki makeup for Windblade and the kind of ninja theme of Road Rocket. I don't know. I didn't, really think that through. I just happened to put Road Rocket down on the shelf, and I was like, huh, yeah, her and Windblade do kind of seem like they might be buds. So I found that really funny. But yeah, that's what that cubicle looks like. Then moving on over here, we've got some Viacons from Beast Machines. Nothing super notable there. They're all original ones. We could use some new versions of these guys because this wouldn't be an ideal scale for a few of them. I'd really like a Voyager class Strika, especially. My Strika has kind of a customization that I did when I was still a kid, so it's not fantastic, but I don't know, it still helps. It's got I replaced her weird sort of flat hands with I want to say it was the blue version of Armada Jetfire's hands, and the type of super glue that I used kind of discolored the plastic, which is why it has that kind of ugly, those ugly white marks on there. But otherwise, I still kind of prefer her having, like, larger fists. But hopefully, we'll get a new version of Strika eventually, just because I think she could stand to be bigger and, like, more accurate colors. But yeah, that's what they look like. Then up here, it's kind of a two different things. We've got some of the Beast Wars Neo Predacons that turn into the dinosaurs, and then we've got some Beast Machines Dinobots. Obviously these two sets are kind of on different teams, but they all look good together just because they're dinosaurs. And then moving up here, we've got our Transformers the movie Decepticons. Obviously with Cyclonus, Scourge, and Galvatron, and the sweeps there. I don't generally prefer the fact that these guys are kind of so far away from, like, the rest of the sort of, like, relevant G1 guys. Like, especially I used to have them next to the Transformers the movie Autobots, but they just really didn't fit on that shelf super well, just because, like, 6 Voyagers, there ended up being, like, a lot of empty space in that little shelf. And I eventually had to move them over here because I needed to make space for Generations, or for a Legacy Metroplex, because originally the Dinobots were up here, and then where the Dinobots were was where the Micromasters were, and then where the Micromasters were was where these guys were, and where these guys were used to be the RID Decepticons, and where they were is where I had the Cybertron guys, obviously, before I had Metroplex. So some stuff had to move around. I generally would prefer if they were a little bit closer to the movie Autobots, but for now I think that this size shelf works well for them. And then over here we've got this entire shelf basically is pretty much devoted to the the Scramble City combiners. We've got what exists so far of our legacy Stunticons up here, looking pretty cool. I think eventually, once I get all of them, I'll probably just leave them in Menasor mode because it would fit nicely on the shelf. Since it's top shelf, there'd be room for him. Then down below them, we've got the Combaticons. I like these Combaticons. I think that I hope that when they start doing new combiners, they don't all follow the exact same kind of like scheme of the Stunticons, because I think it works really well with them having it be 4 deluxe and a commander class that has like all the combined bits, but I don't think that would work well for everybody. And I sort of feel like with the Stunticons, the better route, or with the Combaticons, the better route might be like a leader class Octane and then 4 Voyagers maybe for the limbs. I think that could be pretty cool. I don't know. It's kind of just fantasizing there. Because a lot of the limb guys for the Stunticons I think would work better as Voyagers. I mean, like maybe everyone but Swindle, but I think if you're going to make the rest of them Voyagers, you probably should make Swindle a Voyager too. I don't know. I think that would be cool. Then down here we've got the Protectobots. I've got Rook there, and I prefer this version with Rook being one of the legs and with Groove being the little chest plate, just because obviously with the the Protectobots, the scale in the vehicle modes is just all over the place anyway, but if we can allow it, I prefer a smaller Groove to turn into a slightly more in-scale motorcycle. And I like Rook as a figure too, so I'm quite satisfied with them. And then last but not least, we've got the aerial bots here, who are all good. I think that they could also work as like maybe just 5 Voyagers, because they're all actually kind of the same height in the original cartoon, but I'd be fine with Silverbolt being bigger as a leader class. But either way, I don't know. There's some different ways that they could engineer it to work. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the Canon display. This is the much larger portion of my display. I've got a lot of non-canon guys, which are mostly like previous versions of characters that have kind of been outdated, but a lot of those tend to just be in storage for the most part. I don't have a huge canon display or non-canon display. It's pretty much just this section here and a few other things in a couple other rooms. So yeah, we'll go through those. We've got some my changeables up here on this weird sort of like diagonal shelf. I think they all look good together. I know technically they're not Transformers because they weren't officially released by Hasbro or anything. It was just like a transforming toy from McDonald's, but I still think that they fit the vibe check. We've got the little ships here from they're notionally supposed to scale with Unicron, but of course don't. But they look cool together, and that's another thing too. Is that my non-canon display tends to be a little bit more loosey-goosey in terms of like scale. There can be multiples of the same character. It's pretty much just like still fun toys that I want to have on my display, but they don't really fit into my canon collection for a number of different reasons. So it tends to be kind of a mishmash of stuff. We've got the Transformers Prime Predacon versions of the Terrorcons there. I love that set. We've got our little decoy armor pretender shells here. I think the only one I don't have is Bomb Burst, which for completism's sake kind of sucks, but that's okay. I don't necessarily need that figure, but it would be cool to have all of them there. Then we've got my little Pit of Judgment display here. I decided I've got the Kranix and the Prosecutor that actually came with the set itself, and then a sort of a smaller Quintesson in there to actually, hi, you can see me, to actually scale, more appropriately with the environment. And then a few tiny turbo changer Sharkticons in there, and I'm quite pleased with that. It can be kind of a pain to move around sometimes because it's like doing a ship in a bottle. I have to like reach my hand into the box and get everything kind of sitting properly, and it's really easy to knock stuff over. But yeah, that's what they look like together. I think that looks pretty cool. Then we've got the Ark, who is basically entirely non-canon and out of scale as soon as I got it, because obviously to have an actually properly scaled Ark, it'd have to be like the size of a minivan or something like that, but it's still a nice figure. And then I've got a lot of the little slug little mini versions of characters to go with them. We've got Optimus Prime and 4 of the Dinobots there. We've got the main movie crew there. We've got the movie Decepticons there. We've got some season 1 and 2 Decepticons there, and then this little 3D printed version of Devastator that I designed. I didn't really necessarily design it to go with these guys because it's not totally in scale. I think he's maybe a little bit too big in comparison to them, but it was a fun project to work on, and I'm quite pleased with how it works out. And I think it works well enough to kind of sit with this display. And then moving on down here, so I've got a few characters that I've just wound up with so many versions of, either intentionally or unintentionally, that they kind of have become their own little micro collections. Like Shockwave is a character that I've always been really fond of in terms of the design. So I tend to try to pick up different versions of Shockwave, even if they're not, going to be canon versions or anything like that. So yeah, we've just ended up with a bunch of different Shockwaves here. We've got the Transformers Prime Shockwave in the back. We've got the Studio Series Shockwave further back. We've got the Galactic Band Shockwave there, the Fall of Cybertron Shockwave, the new Legacy Core Class Shockwave, a version of Cyberverse Shockwave, who I only really picked up because he came in the pack with the Quintesson, and I really wanted that Quintesson. But yeah, he's in here. We've got the Studio Series Core Class Shockwave from the Bumblebee movie, and the only super notable one is this Shockwave, who's actually quite a custom that I made a long time ago. Let's take him out and we look at him specifically, because for a while there was really no good Generations styled Shockwave. There were sort of substitutes that worked well enough, like the Fall of Cybertron version, but there wasn't really ever a good G1E Shockwave. So I decided I wanted to actually make a custom one, and I wound up finding a pretty cheap broken Energon Shock Blast on eBay, and I decided to actually do a full-on custom. So he's got a different arm here, which I think is originally Cybertron Soundwave's arm. You can still see with the blue peg there. And then this arm, which is kind of an amalgamation of a few different things kind of glued together. Like the main weapon bit is from the original Shock Blast, but I didn't like the huge sort of unwieldy weapon arm. And then most of the arm here is, I think it's Movie 1 Ratchet's arm. So, kind of an amalgamation of things. I'm still quite pleased with how this turned out. Obviously, I don't think we're ever really going to get a better version of Shockwave than Siege Shockwave. I really like that figure, so that is the one in my Canon display. But, as a fun project and something I made a while ago, it is definitely nice to still have this guy. Definitely some of the joints have loosened up, and he doesn't quite stand up anymore, but I'm still pretty pleased with how that turned out, especially for my first sort of big custom project. And I haven't really done that many big custom projects since then, but I think that works well. And then over here we've got some some Beast Wars Predacons. I mean, really it's just two versions of Megatron and two versions of Scorponok. I guess technically that's Armada Predacon, not Transmetal Megatron, but the actual Transmetal Megatron falls to bits, so that's the version that I had. He was my Canon display, my Canon version of Megatron for a long time. So nice to actually have a new version of Megatron with the Kingdom version. But yeah, I like the little display of the more accurate to show colors reissue of the original Scorponok, and then the toy colors version of Kingdom Scorponok. I think they really make a really good duo together. And then over here, we've got my Optimus Prime display, who I haven't really intentionally tried to pick up this many Optimus Primes. It's just you kind of end up with a lot of them if you collect Transformers throughout the years. Yeah, some notable things here. We've got the KO undersized version of MP10 back there. I can't really remember what company did that, but that's a very nice figure. We've got Siege Optimus Prime, of course. We've got Classics, a classic. He's a great figure. That was my Canon Prime for a long time. We've got either Age of Extinction or The Last Night Optimus Prime. I don't really tend to go out of my way to collect a lot of movie figures because I'm not overly fond of those designs, but I got that as a gift, and it is a nice looking truck. Got the little Universe Spy Changer version of Laser Prime. Got the little micro Hollywood Jada Toys non-transforming little metal Optimus Prime. We've got Studio Series Bumblebee movie Optimus Prime. Obviously, very very good figure. Some Cyberverse version of Prime Optimus Prime. We've got Generations Orion Pax back there. The Cybertron release of the deluxe Armada Prime, I want to say, and then we've got Armada Prime in vehicle mode to hide the fact that one of his arms broke off. So yeah, that's Optimus Prime there. Then this shelf is a bit of a mix of two different things, just because neither of these groups had, took up enough of a footprint to really fit on their own shelves. We've got some movie Dinobots there. That's the Amazon exclusive G1 Colors version of Slog there, and we've got some of the Bumblebee movie design Cybertronian Autobots there. I'm fine with just the trio of them. Ideally, eventually, I'd like to get another shelf that has some smaller cubicles on it to fit with this display as well, so these can be kind of separated out because they don't really have much to do with each other, but that's how it is for now. Then over here, we've got our Soundwave display. The Soundwave is another one that I actually do, kind of go out of my way to get new versions of, even though I've got, probably everything I'll ever need in the Earthrise version. We got the Siege version back there with Ravage and Laserbeak. I might take that Laserbeak eventually and repaint him as Buzzsaw, so I can have an actual Buzzsaw to go with the Earthrise Soundwave. But for now, that's or I guess Netflix Soundwave more properly. But for now, that's he's in here with them. We've got the RED Soundwave in the back there. We've got the War for Cybertron Soundwave. We've got the Bumblebee movie Studio Series Soundwave with Bumblebee movie Ravage there. The music label Soundwave, the fantastic Kingdom Core Class Soundwave, and the little tiny Soundwave that came with the weaponizer pack with the Centurion Drone. And then similarly to that, next to him, we've got our Bumblebee display. I like collecting a lot of different Bumblebees, as you may have noticed. But yeah, no, we've got, RID Bumblebees, not great, but he's there. We've got the Creo Bumblebee. We've got Reveal the Shield Bumblebee is the reuse of the Classics mold. We've got the Worlds Collide Bumblebee. I think that's Masterpiece Bumblebee. I got that as a gift as well. That figure has quite the intense transformation, let me tell you. But even if I don't love the movie design for Bumblebee, a good beetle is a good beetle. Can't deny that. We've got Masterpiece Bumblebee, the original one, which might be a knockoff. I'm not really sure. I got it for a suspiciously cheap price on eBay a long time ago, but it feels good, so who cares? We got the Origins Bumblebee from Buzzworthy. We've got little World's Smallest Bumblebee, and then an even smaller than World's Smallest that came in some kind of mini toys brand pack there. We've got the fantastic War for Cybertron Bumblebee. I love this vehicle mode design, the weird sort of Tron bike avocado. I just think it's a really cool vehicle mode. Apparently we're getting a new version of the War for Cybertron designs in Studio Series, I want to say. So that's pretty exciting. I might have to pick up another version because I really do love this design of Bumblebee. We got the G1, some version of G1 Bumblebee. It's like a keychain, so it's not like an original, but he's there. Got Classics Bumblebee, who's still a great figure, and the Jaded Toys, Micro Hollywood Rides Bumblebee there. Then over here, just some kind of a few Generations figures that I really like, but don't have a great place for yet. Got, Springer there from Thrilling 30, who has been replaced by the much inferior figure of Siege Springer, but who does undeniably look a lot more G1 accurate. So that's the version I have as my Canon Springer, but I adore that figure, and everyone who has it does. So, if you can ever pick up Thrilling 30 Springer, it's really good. We've got the Coronation Starscream there, who ideally I think I'll want to put on his own shelf, maybe on a wall somewhere else at some point, just because he makes for a fun display on his own. We've got Thrilling 30 Cosmos, I think he is, who just got replaced by the Legacy version. We've got Wreck-Gar and Scrap Heap there, who I really like those figures. A lot of people really don't, but they're nice looking figures in my opinion. And we've got Universe Onslaught here, who I got on eBay a long time ago, and he didn't, for whatever reason, didn't have the little guns that stuck out on his turret, so I just glued in some extra missiles that I had in there that I want to say were from Universe Triceradon or something like that. I don't know, but yeah, some kind of ugly glue marks there, but otherwise I think it works. And then moving on, let's move over here first, I think. We've got kind of a mishmash of things. We've got some Mighty Mugs, and then a a Dark of the Moon Shockwave from like Burger King in the background there. We've got our Real Gear robots there. We've got some RAD Spy Changers. So, cool. Just kind of a bunch of different random things. We've got some Beast Wars Maximals, a few different versions of Rat Trap. Is the blue version technically Pack Rat? I don't know. It says Rat Trap on him, so I think that's still a blue Transmetal Rat Trap. And then, Tigatron and Air Razor and Tiger Hawk there, who, I've got a Tiger Hawk. I don't think he really fits in because that figure is kind of dated a little bit. And then I want to say it's the Fox Kids repaint of the original Cheetor. But yeah, pretty cool. And then last but not least, before we move on to a couple other things downstairs, we've got my Optimus Primal display. We've got the original and the new version, or the Power of the Primes version of Optimal Optimus. We've got the little, the backpack for Optimal Optimus from Power of the Primes that I took off so he could just be his own display piece. We've got the Robot Heroes, I want to say, version of Optimus Primal, basically just the downscaled version of him. This is not technically Optimus Primal, but he passes the vibe check. Play School GoBots Gorilla Bot there. And then we've got, again, not technically released as Optimus Primal. He was just released as like a beast version of Optimus Prime in the Cybertron toy line. But he's got the surfboard. He turns into a gorilla. He's Optimus Primal. He's even got the same chest detail. And we've got, last but not least, the who knows what that was called, the Cybertron Heroes or something like that. The Rescue Bots Academy version of the One Step Changer for Optimus Primal there, which I really, really like. But yeah, that's my kind of main display of non-canon Transformers. Like I said, there is some stuff downstairs that I'm gonna cut to, but it's a pretty small display compared to my larger canon display, just because that's really what I prioritize in terms of my collection. Like in my storage bins, I have like one half full storage bin of my canon guys that aren't out, and like two full storage bins of non-canon guys that I don't have out on display. And I would like to display them eventually, but for now, I think this is fine. But yeah, let's cut to elsewhere. Okay, in the home stretch here, only a few things left to look at. Starting off with my my pretty modest G1 collection here. I like G1 figures. I think they're fun to collect, but I don't tend to prioritize them just because more often than not, they're really hard to track down and find complete, and then they're usually going for more than I'm really willing to pay for them. So I don't tend to really prioritize buying them. I have gotten quite a few of these are actually gifts. I think the only ones on this shelf that I actually bought myself were the reissues of Swerve, Tailgate, and Warpath. And then the Ravage obviously is the one that came in that I don't know, what was it, the FanFest PulseCon pack, something, the one with the Beast Wars Ravage. And then I guess I did buy the upper half of Battle Trap there, since the bottom half came in a gift box with a few other things that someone got me. And then the rest of them were all bought for me as gifts. Which I appreciate, of course. And it makes for a little nice display here. I also have, G1 Bumblebees upstairs with the Bumblebee display. I also have a few Micromasters that are, with my Canon Micromasters. I guess Erector really could kind of fit in with them, since, I don't have a new updated version of Erector, so he could fit in well with them, but I think I would need to clear out a little more space on that shelf for that to work. But yeah, otherwise, some pretty cool figures here. I also have the little Matrix of Leadership box set of DVDs of the G1 cartoon in the back there. There's a lot of other stuff on these shelves, which I'm going to look at in more depth in the next video, where I'm looking at all my non-Transformers stuff. But for now, we're looking at all the Transformers, so I'm just going to focus on the Transformers related stuff. And then up here we have Gigawatt and Ectotron, looking very nice with some other things kind of spattered around them. Then up here on this shelf in the back there, we have a boxed Japanese Transmetal Rat Trap. I don't tend to collect stuff boxed, but it makes for a really nice display. I really like the Japanese box there, using it as kind of a bookend. And yeah, I think it looks really nice. I mean, it's not mint. I have opened it up and I've taken them out and played with them, but put it back in, and I think it makes for a really nice display piece there. Then moving on over here, we've got Armada Unicron kind of hanging out on this shelf with some other stuff, and the Covenant of Primus and its little cool Autobot symbol case there. I just hung that up the other day. I think that looks pretty good. And then last but not least, here we have the big boy, not Armada, HasLab Unicron. I think this is a pretty good place to end off the video. Yeah, I think he looks really nice over here. Just kind of an eye draw. It looks really nice in the corner of the room over here. But yeah, that's pretty much to it for my Transformers collection. Thank you for watching the video if you've gotten this far, and if you haven't, I don't blame you, but also you won't hear this. Like I said before, I'm gonna do the rest of my collection in a separate video, and that will be the next upload that I put up, hopefully. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it. If you enjoy my videos, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing. I do reviews generally every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. And without further ado, here we have the tour for my Transformers collection.